Hello fellow YouTubers, and welcome to episode 20, reading my first self-published novel, Aggravation. She left an envelope for me, but I'll wait until I get home before opening it. Do you mind if I'm there when you do? No, not at all. Half an hour later, seated as usual opposite each other at Clyde's kitchen table, a mug of tea before each, Clyde opened the envelope, while Sandy rolled a cigarette, and then he began to read. Dear Clyde, if you have this envelope, then you'll already know that I'm no longer here in Hampton. Perhaps you think ill of me for not saying goodbye in person, but everything happened so quickly I didn't have a chance. Truly I didn't. 1 minute I was sculpting a piece, the next I had an overwhelming urge to get away. You see, my mother and father are from the old school and believe the only way to earn a living is to work for someone else. So you can well imagine how that made me feel. I love my mum and dad, but sometimes parents can be a real pain in the backside. I could well understand their feelings if I happened to be pregnant, which I'm not. But to continuously go on and on about, as they see it, a harebrained idea really got on my nerves. They were happy for me to continue working at the cafe. After all, I was earning a reliable pay packet. But to waste money starting up my own business, they couldn't understand that at all. I thought of asking you to come and have a talk with them, but everything you said would probably go in one ear and out the other, if I know my parents, and I do. So in the end I decided, spur of the moment, to quit my job and take off and be a free spirit for a while. I've always thought of travelling around Australia, and if I didn't do it now, I probably never would. What with the way time has a habit of getting away from you. I will miss you though, and I will keep in touch, and who knows, maybe I might end up back home with good old mum and dad. Wouldn't surprise me, but I'd sure have some stories to tell. Now wouldn't I? Anyhow, take care, and I'll be thinking of you. Love and best wishes always, Louise. And I'll be damned, Sandy said. Yes, and I'll be damned, Clyde agreed. Then, still, I'm not really surprised knowing how unhappy she was. Oh sure, she was genuinely excited about the business venture. Probably still is. But she wasn't happy. I can understand that, Sandy said. If you're not happy, then nothing else really matters. Look at Alma and me. We've never had a lot in our lives, but we've always been happy. You're a fortunate man, Sandy. Very fortunate indeed. I know. Lying in bed that night, Clyde found he couldn't help but think of Louise, wondering where she was and if she was safe. A man travelling alone is one thing, but a young woman, and an attractive young woman at that, is another thing altogether. Australia is as big as it is empty, and if she was to find herself isolated in a small outback town, then anything could befall her. The majority of people are good folk, but even the good ones can turn nasty after too much drink. And what if she broke down in the middle of nowhere? What would she do then? Perish? It was too terrible to think about. She won't let that happen though. She's too smart. Still. Clyde rattled his head then. Oh, for heaven's sake, Clyde, what's got into you? But Clyde was more than aware what this was all about. He'd formed a friendship with Louise that had gradually become, at least to him, something far more profound. From the first meeting he had liked her, and with every subsequent meeting that liking had deepened, to the point of infatuation, a longing to be close to her, near her, and now he was resigned to the real possibility that he might be in love with her. And what he said next didn't surprise him in the least. I should have asked her to marry me. Thought about it often enough I didn't want to make a fool of myself. Me, a 65-year-old man asking a young woman to marry him. What hope would there be? Geez, Clyde yawned. Oh well, no fool like an old fool, I guess. During the course of the next 3 days, Clyde thought of Louise often. He probably always would. But when the ground-penetrating radar unit arrived mid-morning Wednesday, he finally had something to take his mind off her. He was keen to show the unit to Sandy, but he wouldn't be home till the early afternoon. It didn't matter. He had a new toy to play with, and with it, he had no doubt an instruction manual that would take the rest of the day to decipher. There were 2 packages. The first contained the control unit mounted in a backpack, a monitor, 2 rechargeable batteries, the side of which prompted Clyde to mutter, "I'll have to buy a generator," when the Sandy already has one, and a technical data booklet and operating manual. The second package contained a 13-metre rough terrain antenna which, to Clyde, resembled a length of white 1-inch marine rope and 2 inline rechargeable batteries. The rope-like antenna was rated 25 millihertz, weighed 7.8 kilograms, and was suitable for work requiring the deepest depth penetration. The backpack unit, although larger than the antenna, was comparable in weight to it when Clyde picked it up, and he estimated that, all in all, monitor and batteries included, the entire setup weighed about 16 kilograms. A walk in the park on level ground, but lugging it up the steep incline of Tall Hill would be a long and arduous task, and he wondered if he was up to it. Still, slow and steady wins the race, and besides, we've got all the time in the world, so what does it matter if we take a couple of hours to reach the top? Maybe I should buy one of those portable defibrillation units, in case either of us has a heart attack, he thought jokingly. Taking the 4 batteries and 2 charging units to the kitchen and placing them on the bench top, he slotted one of each of the 2 different batteries into its individual unit, plugged them in, then turned them on. It would take 2 to 4 hours depending on the ambient temperature, but with the kitchen being a modest 24 degrees Celsius, Clyde expected 2 hours would see him right. After all, he was dead keen to try it out. So with at least 2 hours to wait, there was no time like the present to read the manual over a mug of tea and a sandwich, and by that time Sandy should be home. 3 mugs of tea and the teapot topped up later, Clyde had managed to familiarise himself with the operating procedure, which, in a nutshell, was to connect the monitor to the top of the backpack unit, connect the antenna, run it out, trigger the mechanism, and, hey presto, an area 13 by 6 metres would be scanned and the results visible on the monitor. Nothing could be simpler. Which basically was true, but with the hill being heavily timbered, it would be necessary to retract the antenna before scanning the next area, which meant that one would have to be up high with the main unit and responsible for retracting the antenna, while the other would be up and down like a yo-yo, running the antenna out. And at that rate, that could be busy for only God knows how long. Was there another way? Clyde was given to think. Maybe, maybe not. But he would rack his brain trying to come up with something. Gosh, Sandy too, and getting thinking about it as well. A little after 2 hours, the green blinking lights on both charging units had stopped blinking and were constant green for go. 15 minutes later, Clyde was in the backyard, all but ready to commence the inaugural operation. But disappointed Sandy wasn't here. He had phoned, but the call had rang out. But as he began to run the antenna out, Sandy wandered into the backyard, saying as he neared Clyde, "I see you got it, eh?" "Yes, and you're just in time to see what it can do." "How's it work?" Sandy asked. "Well, you turned it on and..." "No, I mean, how does it work?" "Oh, right, I see what you mean. Well, it's a bit like radar. It sends out radio waves that penetrate soil and clay but bounce off solid objects. That sends back the images to the monitor so you can see what's hidden under the surface. Clyde wasn't sure how it worked, but that explanation wouldn't be far off the mark. As Sandy busied himself rolling a smoke, he said, "That's all well and good, but how do you tell the difference between a rock that's shaped like a pyramid and the real thing?" It was a good question and one that Clyde wasn't sure about. In fact, I don't know, to be perfectly honest. Well, in that case, we'd probably be wasting our time, don't you think? Clyde was adamant. No, not at all. Then I thought. And besides, what are the chances of there being a rock shaped like a pyramid? A small rock, a remnant, yes. But a big rock? I don't think so. Sandy had to admit that was more than likely, and he nodded in agreement. "Okay then," Clyde said excitedly. "Let's give it a whirl, shall we?" Clyde had laid the antenna within a couple of metres of the east boundary fence, remembering that the sisters had buried their much-loved cat Ruffles close to the apple tree. Sure, it was near on 70 years ago, but there was a very good chance, at least Clyde hoped, that the bones would still be there. "Here we go," Clyde said, triggering the unit. Clyde had no idea what to expect with regard to any sound the unit would make, and when he couldn't hear so much as a hum, he was in two minds if it was working or not. But when he looked at the shielded monitor, he was both relieved and excited at what he saw, and he said, "Hey, look here, Sandy." But when Sandy did as he was asked, he couldn't make hide nor hair of it, and a little disgruntled said, "I can't see a goddamn thing, Clyde. What am I supposed to be looking at?" Clyde pointed to the top centre of the monitor, then slowly moved his right forefinger along a series of white lines, pointing out what he could see, and said, "There, Sandy, do you see them? All those are the bones of the sister's cat." "Go on, get away with you." "I'll prove it," Clyde said. Then with that he dashed off to the shed, leaving Sandy thinking, "I sure hope he hasn't gone to get a shovel to dig up the remains just to prove a point," returning a minute later with a long-bladed screwdriver. "I don't know exactly where they buried the cat, but they said it was close to this apple tree." Then with that said, he pushed the shaft all the way into the ground, and then rushed back to the monitor, and "There you go, Sandy. Can you see the blade of the screwdriver?" "I'll be damned. There's no mistaking it, is there?" "Thank Christ for that," Clyde thought. "And you see that white area there?" he said, pointing. "I reckon that must be a rock ledge." Sandy nodded. He was impressed. "And you can tell from the gauge at the bottom here," Clyde said, pointing, "and from this vertical one here, how far away it is from the backpack unit and how deep it is." "Incredible," Sandy said. "But I sure hope we don't have to spend the rest of our lives scrambling up and down that bloody hill trying to find that frigging pyramid, which, as you well know, I'm convinced isn't there." Oozing with confidence, Clyde said, "Oh, it's there all right. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. Then, but there's one thing we need to consider." And Clyde went on to tell Sandy his concerns regarding the antenna, asking then if he had any ideas as to how they could speed up the process and therefore save a lot of time and energy. Sandy had said that nothing came to mind straight away, but it was certainly worth taking the time to consider, preferably over a cup of tea. 10 minutes later, after packing up the unit and placing it in the laundry, they were seated at the kitchen table doing exactly that. Clyde, remembering their need for a generator, asked Sandy if he had one and, discovering that he didn't, said he would buy one. Sandy, knowing Clyde's proclivity for going all out when he bought things, suggested he leave it up to him, for it was, he said, the least he could do. Clyde agreed. As for finding a solution to their self-imposed problem, well, that proved to be a simple one. All we need, Clyde said, thinking out loud, is probably nothing more than a length of nylon cord with a small weight on one end so it can be tossed to whoever is below, with the other end tied to the end of the antenna. Then, all that person has to do is reel it in and thereby pull the antenna out to its full length. Sandy gave Clyde the thumb up, then said, "I'll buy..." "How long is that antenna, by the way?" 13 metres. "I'll buy 14 metres of nylon starter cord, the kind that's used in line trimmers and chainsaws. It's light but strong." "Great," Clyde said. "So when do we head off?" "Saturday," Sandy said without hesitation. "I've got a few things to do around the house. I need to get both gas cylinders on the caravan filled, and I'll check to see what date the bushfire season will be starting, because you can't light a campfire once it's on." "I wouldn't have thought of that," Clyde thought. "Just go to show the different mindsets of city people." "That'll be good," Clyde said, "because it gives me the opportunity to take care of things around here too." After Sandy left, Clyde phoned the doctor's surgery for the result of his blood test, then was relieved to hear that all were normal. He'd been planning to phone the surgery for the past few days but kept forgetting, and now, with the blood test getting the all clear, he was wishing he'd been able to have the MRI scan while in Dubbo 2 weeks ago. He wasn't concerned, but to have it over and done with and knowing the results would have completely put his mind at rest. The following 2 days, Thursday and Friday, were busier than Clyde had expected them to be. What was one thing leading to another and to something else. He had gotten the house in order, which hadn't taken any time at all. But after giving the lawn a shorter cut than normal, than a thorough watering, he had been reminded when returning the mower to the shed that the auger needed to be cleaned, which had a flow and effect resulting in the mower and line trimmer getting a well-deserved once over and tidy up. Back in the house, he had spent considerable time writing down what food items he needed to take away, then going through the pantry taking out what he needed, then crossing those off the list, leaving a shopping list for the items he still wanted but didn't have. A quick phone call to Sandy informed that the freezer and the fridge freezer combo in the caravan had plenty of room for whatever it is he wanted to bring, after which he went through his own freezer and put aside what he wanted, the result of which he didn't need to buy anything. Friday night he packed his clothes, personal items, 2 double blankets, sheets, 2 pillows, refreshed, and pillow slips. Checked his wallet even though there wasn't anywhere to spend the money that was in it. Then before going to bed placed his mobile phone in the charging cradle, double checking that he had placed the car charger in his bag with his clothes. He had. There wasn't a single in the area of Tall Hill, but a few hundred metres down the road from it there was. So if something happened to one of them, the phone could prove to be a lifesaver, even though they're only 15 minutes from town by car. Lying in bed that night, Clyde found his mind full of thoughts about Louise. He hated the idea that she was no longer here and welcome, and how much he was already missing her. It was silly, he knew, to be infatuated with such a beautiful young woman. Sillier still if he was in love with her. Or was it that he lusted for her? No, he didn't think so. Having sex with Louise had never entered his head, ever. Sure, he had often wished that he were 40 years younger when near her, but that was only the state of mind of an old man being friends with the type of young woman he hadn't known when he was 25, but now wished he had. And that's where the trouble lay, didn't it? The 40-year difference in their ages. She was young and vibrant, and he was old and set in his ways. So what future could there be for the two of them? And of course, relationships like those had worked in the past, and he could offer her all the things her heart might so desire, and in return she would give him companionship. But what if she wanted children? What then? To become a father in one's twilight years wasn't in the best interest of the child. Now was it? Having money was one thing and very important, but by the time the child commenced school, Clyde would be in his 70s, are more than likely physically incapable of doing the sort of fatherly things he would expect it to do. No, it defies all common sense and logic to even be thinking that way, even though it did his heart good to think of Louise. Clyde rose early Saturday morning, 6:30. Sandy was an early riser too, so he wanted to have everything ready and waiting on the front veranda, and enough time to have breakfast and do a final quick check of the house. And he timed it well. An hour and 10 later, Sandy brought his ensemble, a Holden Commodore sedan and 16-foot Millard Caravan, to a curbside stop opposite Clyde's front gate. 20 minutes later they were on their way. The adventure had begun. A minute into the trip, Clyde asked, "What brand of generator did you buy?" Clyde was thinking along the lines of a Yamaha inverter or a Gentech he'd seen advertised on television, which is why Sandy had volunteered to buy a Taurus 2200 watt. A Taurus? Can't say I'm familiar with those. No, you probably wouldn't be, Sandy said with a hint of sarcasm, considering your liking for the more expensive things in life. Clyde smiled. You cheeky bugger. Well, it's true, ain't it? Basically that's true, but only because I strongly believe that you get what you pay for. And because you can afford to, right? Yes. And so can you now. Sandy shrugged. Old habits die hard, Clyde. Then, and besides, that Taurus will generate electricity as good as any other at 2 or 3 times the price. Clyde couldn't argue with that reasoning, although he was thinking, yes, but how long will it do so when compared to a more expensive model? And he thought too of asking how much it costs, then decided not to, for it simply didn't matter. Changing the subject, he asked, will we be able to light a campfire? They'd be disappointed if we couldn't. No worries. The bushfire season has been put forward to the middle of next month. Well, that's good. Hate to think my first camping trip wouldn't have a campfire. I agree. Been camping now for 60 years and nothing beats sitting before a campfire with the billy boiling. It's one of life's simple pleasures, it is. I'm looking forward to it. The 4 boulders atop Tall Hill came into view 20 minutes later, a little way off diagonally to Clyde's left. With the tops of the dense canopy of pine trees glistening in the sun, and the backdrop of clear blue sky, the boulders, dark in shade except for the sunlit face of the boulder, front and left as Clyde saw it, gave the illusion of defying gravity as if hovering. And Clyde asked Sandy to stop so he could capture an image of what he thought was picture perfect. He had driven this exact same route many times and hadn't noticed the spectacle before, concentrating as always on the road ahead, the reason. In fact, being a passenger had given him the freedom to look here, there, and everywhere at his leisure, a rarity indeed. There was little to see other than the forest trees, earth, rock, native grass, wildflowers, a kangaroo or two almost ghost-like in the speckled shade of the forest floor, and the bird life that seemed to be everywhere. But it was a different world to the hustle and bustle of city life, amid a myriad of concrete, steel, bricks, mortar, tiled roofs and congested bitumen roads and freeways, and he relished it. A few minutes later, at the junction of the 2 dirt roads close to the base of Tall Hill, Sandy brought his car to a stop for the second time. He had an urgent need to relieve the pressure on his bladder, and Clyde took the opportunity to do the same. You know you're getting old, Sandy said, directing the flow on the shoulder of the road, when you can't resist the urge for fear of pissing yourself. Clyde agreed. It was, unfortunately, a statement of fact. But isn't it wonderful to be able to do this, Clyde said, when you want to without the need to look over your shoulder. That's one of the beauties of the bush, Clyde. It's one big open-air toilet, and you never need to flush. Finished with that toilet, Clyde noticed an open area of ground just off to his left. prompting him to recall what Henrietta had written the day they experienced their close encounter. Harriet had had a flat tire and had taken to a spot under the shade of a towering eucalypt to repair it, then stayed for lunch. And he wondered if this was that spot. There was indeed such a tree about 10 metres distant from the edge of the road. And now and then the ground was covered in lush grass, and it was the perfect position from which to see the top of the hill. So yes, this could be the spot. And because the idea of staying where the sister had once been all those years ago appealed to him, he suggested to Sandy that they set up camp there. But Sandy wasn't about to do that, and for one very good reason. You never set up camp under a gum tree, Clyde, he said, because they have a nasty habit of shedding limbs. The apple tree at the cemetery popped into Clyde's head. I didn't know that. Well, now you do, and you want to remember that, Clyde, Sandy warned. I will. Then I thought, that of another spot the sisters frequented. What about the other spot the sisters mentioned in their writings? You know, the rock pool. Not a good idea, Clyde, Sandy said. Not with summer just around the corner anyway. You see, where there's water there's frogs, and where there's frogs there's snakes. Clyde smiled. I've got a lot to learn, haven't I? No, not really, Sandy said lightheartedly. It's just a matter of being aware of your surroundings and the animals that are in it and not taking anything for granted. Take that log lying on the ground over there, for example. City people step over that log without any thought that a snake might be curled up on the other side and wonder why they got bit. Whereas bush folk are aware of that and step onto the top of the log, then spring forward out of harm's way. Common sense it is, you see. Think before you leap. Don't wander about with your head in the clouds, but with your head and eyes down so you can see what's in front of you. Thank you, Sandy. I'll remember and do everything you tell me to do. Oh, and one other thing while I'm at it, Sandy said. If by chance you wander off and get lost and night is falling, stay where you are till morning instead of getting in a panic and rushing blindly through the bush looking for what you haven't got a clue to where it is. There's nothing in the bush that can do you harm if you're careful, but there's everything in the bush that can harm you if you're not, especially in the dark. Clyde listened and took heed of what his friend was saying, thinking as he looked around him how easy it would be for the uninitiated to fall victim in what, for all intents and purposes, was a safe and friendly environment. If, as Sandy had said, they walked about with their head in the clouds. Yes, indeed, the Australian bush was ready and waiting to claim you in an instant if you didn't keep your wits about you and your eyes to the ground. Back in the car, Sandy said, there's a good spot a few hundred metres directly ahead where Alma and me have camped a couple of times. Got plenty of firewood nearby and there's a dam not more than 30 metres behind it. Water's no good for drinking, but it's fine for boiling to shower and wash up with, and you can always get a feed of yabbies at this time of the year as well. And drive on, Macduff, Clyde said. And then, I thought you could catch yabbies any time of the year. You can, but they're scarcer during the winter. Same with the native fish, because there's less food when compared to the hotter weather. Another reason you want to stay well clear of the water. Damn mozzies are bad enough as it is in the summer day and night, but close to water they can be a living nightmare. Drive you nuts they will. Flies do too, but at least you get a break from them at night. Clyde had learned a lot in half an hour, but one thing he did know. I'm glad I brought plenty of insect repellent then. Okay. Oof. I had to turn the fan off. It was very warm. Now I'm going to put it back on. I want to thank you for watching, and until next time, bye for now.